This is the Star Wars Squadrons podcast, season 2, episode 14, and I've been meaning to do this one for a bit to have on all of Savrip Squad. It is Savrip Team night here, and we basically got everyone here. Guys, thank you so much, and girls, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. Everyone, why don't we go through here? I'll go through and say your names and say hello here. I got Rebelpilot.
Hey guys, what's going on?
Agent Rob.
Hello.
Oh, Atreides in here. I didn't see you earlier. Thank you for joining us as well.
Just got here. Thanks for having us.
Yay, glad to have you. Birdbrain's in here as well.
Hello.
Quintessence? Did I say that right? I feel like I butchered it. Did I butcher it?
Not this time.
Okay.
Also, hi.
And Zerith as well. How you doing?
How's it going?
Wow, everybody's here. The whole team. So, I'll start. Rebel, how did Savrip begin?
I think I'll split the story with Zerith.
Okay.
And I'll say from my side, and I'll let Zerith chime in. Probably about a month before the first Cal Cup. I mean, so Zerith and I and Rob had been flying together for pretty much since, what was it, Zerith? Like October-ish? Like probably like close to the start of the game at that point.
Yeah, pretty much since the game came out.
And
I was a little bit later. I think it was just before the end of the first operation.
yeah, and I remember Zerith like a month before. It's like, hey, should we do this? Like, cause we had been flying together so much, talking strategy. And Smith and 66 Sheep, who are also original squad members, like we all flew together a lot. And Zerith comes in and says, hey, do you want to do this? And I was like, oh man. At first I was like, I don't know. I promised I wouldn't do like a team thing because I'd done it with X-Wing versus TIE Fighter for a long time.
Okay.
But then Zerith, we have been so good. I said to Zerith, why not? Let's just go for it. And if we win, like if we do well, then let's just keep the ball rolling. And that's kind of what happened, right, Zerith? I mean, you tell me.
Yeah, so let's just say that nobody was committing. And I think we had two of us committed, like guaranteed. It was me and Smith, I think. And then maybe 66 Sheep, who's no longer plays with us. And then Rebel and Rob were being a little wishy-washy on the commitment, and I forget who else was with us on that original team at that time. And I was trying to reach out to just my friends that were sort of interested in the game, because like I just wanted to put a team together and have fun.
Yeah.
I wasn't really worried about doing well or not. I just wanted to compete in it. And it was days. I mean, it was like days before Cal Cup started, and I think Rebel found Quinn here, and so she was one of our backups, and then Thanatos, who hasn't played with us in a bit because he's got real life stuff going on, and they were kind of our backups to the main team, because Quinn, and Thanatos hadn't even really played with us yet. So we just went into it, and they played for us, and we had a pretty good showing, but it was very last minute, and now Quinn has moved up to like one of the stars of our team.
Oh
so.
yeah, I mean Quinn's a baller in the game for sure. I find that so interesting too. That time where like earlier in the game, there was like maybe 60 teams in that first round. It was like pushing it, right, like high 50s at least. And we didn't know it. Like, we didn't know all the teams, right? Like, Orange didn't know Savrip, and I felt like we all kind of got to meet each other. I believe you guys were maybe, like, top 16 in that one as well. Maybe top 8, I can't remember. Like, you guys did that great showing in that one, too. From that one, and those tournaments were really fun. So let's actually kind of talk to you guys, too, about let's go through everyone, and I'm curious, like, how did you hear about Star Wars Squadrons? So we'll start with Zerith. Zerith, how did you first hear about Squadrons?
So the general promotion, I think there were some rumors coming out before, and I was very wary of it. I've been wanting a spiritual successor to the X-Wing series for decades, and when that first trailer came out and I saw the power management, they were focusing on that, and all of that, I'm like, oh, they're gonna do it. They're actually going to like create a spiritual successor. But I was still like, I actually had tears in my eyes because I'm like, they're going to do it. But at the same time, in the back of my mind, I'm like, how are they going to mess this up?
Well, looking at it now, I mean, probably like a year later from that announcement almost, how do you feel they did mess it up? How do you feel about the game at this point then?
No, I think they did a phenomenal job. I think just the unfortunate downfall of the game is that it just needed a little bit more time in the cooker, and then also, it really sucks to have a final release product that is no longer supported, like even just like quarterly patches or something. It doesn't have to be anything big, but just like, here's a quarterly patch or a semi-annual
Yeah.
patch or something like that. Because most games, once they're released and they go gold, especially in the old days, like X-Wing versus TIE Fighter, they would still have patches, but
Mhm.
it was just whenever they got done with it.
Oh,
You know?
they couldn't wait to wipe their hands of this one, basically.
Yeah.
Quinn, why don't you tell? I've never heard this from you. I mean, all the games you played. How did you first hear about Squadrons? How did you get into it?
Well, I know some of us here come from backgrounds in flight sims. I do not. The most I had with spaceflight and Star Wars was the Rogue Squadron games. I played all three of them. Like, I played the hell out of all of them, especially the second one. So I was kind of left wanting by the Starfighter Assault and Battlefront 2, the EA one.
Yeah.
So when I heard that there was going to be a new Starfighter game for Star Wars, I was like, "Huh, all right. Call me cautiously optimistic." Then I saw the initial public announcement for Squadrons, and it was like, "Oh hey, cockpit, first-person cockpit only. You fly around, you manage your power like the." I never played XVT.
Mm-hmm.
I never played those old ones, but I know of them. I was like, oh, Power Manager like those old games. That sounds pretty neat. Oh, and you can drift? Oh, I can do like the thing that Poe Dameron did? That's kind of cool, I guess.
That's what I did not. All those things I didn't pick up on at all when I watched it, because I was coming from the same place as you, like a Rogue Squadron background, not really a flight background, but like I didn't understand the Power Manager. Like I was just like, oh yeah, you'll just fly or something. I like did not have an understanding at all. So you were streets ahead for me on it. That's for sure. Bird
I mean,
Brain.
I've never done it, but I mean, I knew how it worked in theory.
Mm-hmm. Bird Brain. How about you? How did you get into it? How did you find first hear about Squadrons?
Well, mostly I would just scrolling down YouTube one day and I see, videos about it and I see the Star Wars title and like, you know what? We'll just give it a try.
Mm-hmm.
I'd never really played any other flight sims. I didn't even really play the Starfighter Assault and Battlefront 2, but it's just like, you know what? Maybe I'll have fun playing this game. And I did.
Oh, I guess too, because I know Bird Brain, you're one of the console players. Had you guys have how many console players are on Savrip, or is Bird Brain the only one, or is there a few?
Treaties is on Xbox.
Mm-hmm.
LBT is on PlayStation. I think that's it, right?
Okay, yeah. So you guys have a fair amount of console players mixed in there too. I feel that's just interesting to note that as well. Rob, or no, I skipped Atreides. Actually, we'll start to you next. So when did you first hear about Squadrons?
Yeah, so I'm a fair bit younger than most of the player base here. My first experience with a Star Wars flight was in 2015's Battlefront, and that was janky. Then 2017's Battlefront, I put a bit of time into the piloting stuff, but I never really got into the older Star Wars games. During that time period before Squadrons came out, I was like, this flight sim stuff's kind of cool. I looked into other games, Ace Combat, right? Then saw some announcements for Squadrons and got really excited. Bought the game on pre-order and been playing since launch.
Oh, nice. You've been playing all year too. What are you playing on? How do you play it? You said console as well, I think, actually.
Yes. I'm on Xbox. Shortly before the game came out, I bought a Xbox Series 2 Elite controller with the paddles.
Mm-hmm.
And just like prepped for the game, figuring out how to use the paddles, extra buttons, and I will say it has helped a lot with this.
Yeah, I
would be in a much different spot if I didn't have this.
I actually got the Elite controller too at a certain point when I was playing, and I think it makes a huge difference too. I loved using it I love it for all games. It's like my favorite controller ever. It's totally true. Agent Rob, how about you? When did you get into Squadrons?
So I've been playing the X-Wing series, since very early on. The DOS CD-ROM was the first real PC game that I had gotten into.
CD-ROM? You got the floppy disk?
No, I did not play the floppy disk. It was
I had the floppy
the
disk.
collector's CD-ROM, the DOS version, not the Windows version. And so that was from '94. So that's the first real PC game I got into. So I've been playing space flight games, ever since. And similar, like Descent. So drifting is great because I like Descent and Free Space. All of those games, excited for X-Wing versus TIE Fighter when it came out. X-Wing Alliance, obviously TIE Fighter. So. And then in some X-Wing related Discord, we saw some stuff on Squadron, saw it on Eckhart's Ladder and such. So it's like, okay, let me look into this. Saw the power management. It's like, okay, they are doing a spiritual successor, something in line with those original games that I loved. And I looked into it, and as they came out with more information, it's like, oh, and it looks like they're improving the power management because, let's be honest, the power management in the original games was a bit janky. It was a little weird, and they did improve it here. I mean, we all know that there's still some things that'd be nice to smooth out, but they definitely improved on the idea of how the power management is done here compared to those original games. So yeah, I definitely picked it up. Basically just had to wait a month or two for some of the early issues to get out of the way, because I knew it was like, okay, those issues would affect my system, so let's wait for them to be fixed. Oh, they're fixed, get the game. And then I started playing.
And you're kind of known too for being one of the A-Wing pilots out there still in the game who's made it work. Any thoughts about that? What are your thoughts on the A-Wing and making it viable?
It just runs out of energy. My laser, I'm always shooting the lasers and they just keep running out. And then shooting a TIE bomber, and then it gets healed. And so yeah, it just doesn't have enough juice right now. The weirdest thing that I find is that I've always loved the X-Wing. The X-Wing's my favorite, spaceship in, fiction. And I should like the X-Wing, but it's so much fun to fly interceptors. And even in the original X-Wing, I like flying X-Wing, but then in later games, it's just like the A-Wing. Well, in this game, the A-Wing's more fun. In Galactic Starfighter in the Old Republic, the Scout class was more fun than the Strike Fighters. So I don't
know. We kind of talk about the A-Wing as like a ship, or it's the only one that you don't like. Squadrons, you kind of fly like constantly boost drifting, whereas the A-Wing is the one ship that you fly like it's a flight game or something. Like you fly it normally almost. It's like, so I guess that's why it's sort of different. Yeah,
they when they nerfed boost skipping, you had to fly it a lot more normal. They relaxed the boost skip nerf on the X-Wing and Y-Wing to make it more competitive with charging on the Imperial side. But they did not do the same thing to the A-Wing. So the A-Wing does have to be flown a bit more normally in order for that to work. And the A-Wing really does hit hard. It's just, it doesn't have enough juice to actually finish the job.
I was going to say, A-Wing's it's played more optimally, right? Because with the A-Wing, you have to take advantage of every moment you have. And that includes defensively too, right? Because if you are put yourself in such a bad position, you are dead. Like, you're not going to survive a really good attack from someone. And the flip side, if you want to make sure you put away someone, every one of your shots have to count, right? And Rob is so good at putting himself in those positions, like so good, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, the only issue is that in this game, you do have to hit objectives as well. In the TIE Interceptor, you can stay in and hit objectives pretty much indefinitely. In the X-Wing, you can stay in and hit objectives pretty much indefinitely. In the A-Wing, you can't. You run out of juice.
Yeah, we finally had to get him to drop the A-Wing for the X-Wing on NR.
It's hard.
I don't completely drop it, but it's not a primary ship anymore.
Right.
That's the reality of it.
He still gets his TIE Interceptor on Empire.
And to be fair, Rob brought back the interceptor meta, right? A lot of teams are bringing it back now because Rob has proven it works from an objective standpoint. Which we worked with him on that because when Rob's an interceptor, he changes the game, right? So it makes it an advantage for us as a team. And it took us a little bit to figure out, but now we see Baywatch doing it with Sitka. And I'm sure Jester might start doing it with Randalorians, right? We're going to start seeing a lot of that.
Yeah,
I think the next
in the play-ins at one time, Scalp did it as well with a Jareen. So yeah, there's definitely people doing it more. So it's really cool that you find the viability there. Rebel.
We did beat Splinter with an interceptor.
Oh, damn! Maybe that's how it happened then, because that would have been that Cal Cup. Maybe they took notes, brought it back. I don't know. Should get to Rebel. You're the last one, I believe, here to talk about how you got in Squadron.
Yeah. It's very similar to Rob and Zerith. And in fact, for me, it definitely, I'll never remember. I won't forget when they dropped the first video, right? Because no one was expecting that video. Because Motive had been secretly working, and that video dropped. I was just scrolling through my Facebook, and then the video was there, and I clicked it. And I said, same exact reaction as Rob and Zerith. Like, holy crap. It's exactly as I remember X-Wing, but it looks so much more polished. Like, the flight mechanics, power management, it's all there. Like, quite literally, probably about 2 weeks after that video dropped, I went back, looked in battle stats, because I used to run a squadron in X-Wing versus TIE Fighter, the Elite Fighter Squadron, and I went back there, looked at all my old stats, everything, and the funny part was they kept all old information, so I was like, fuck it. I started emailing every single person on the squadron, seeing if those emails still work, seeing if anyone was out there, and I found about 8, one of the guys I kept up with, but I found about 8 of us whose emails still worked, and we got together in Discord and just started talking about it. But unfortunately, when the game launched, it wasn't. We could cover that a little bit. It wasn't exactly X-Wing versus TIE Fighter, but in my opinion, it's better than X-Wing versus TIE Fighter. It makes the game more engaging, and I think this is something that a lot of X-Wing versus old XVT players, even Rogue Squadron players, kind of gloss over. Is that those games were very slow and methodical in how you approach the game, essentially, right? Whereas this, it feels more like an actual dogfight where you're engaging, you're doing something, you have to be always on the ball, whereas in the old X-Wing versus TIE Fighter, you're tracking your targets, you're just making sure that you're not taking fire while putting someone out. Granted, I will say that, accuracy, the payoff for accuracy and good flight mechanics was a lot better in X-Wing versus TIE Fighter, because you will be punished for such poor flying. But definitely, the fights felt slower, the fights felt it felt like a slog. It felt like a brutal fist fight, where it's here, the elegance of fleet battle, it really shows through, and that the whole thing caught me. Even watching the first video up to today, I'm still enthralled by Squadrons. I went back probably 2 months ago just to fly a couple of matches in X-Wing versus TIE Fighter, and it just, oh my god, it felt like it was walking again. I'm like, oh my god, I can't do this anymore. This is just so bad compared to what we have today.
Oh, it's just walking, that was walking, and Squadrons is running basically now in the state that it is. Yeah. I mean, I am kind of similar to, I can't remember who said it now, but I have no background other than a little bit of Rogue Squadron, and I just kind of came into the game fresh, so I was just like, hey, whatever it is, so I don't have this sort of preconceived notions of what a Star Wars flight game should be, like some people do. So this idea, I see what you're saying, it's kind of making it clear to me, because someone was kind of criticizing the people who maybe, quote unquote, exploit the mechanics of the game, and saying that they're not good pilots, and I guess that idea to me, I'm like, what does that mean? What is a good pilot? I don't get it. But
it's to get off my lawn mentality, right? They're remembering the good old days and how they used to dominate that, right? But there's plenty of us in the scene today who were part of those good old days, and we've taken and it gave us a huge advantage. Zerith and I had such a huge advantage early on because of the fact that we did old flight sims. So even when the meta was still fresh and no one was boost gasping, right? We were abusing things like propulsion engine, because we're like, this is how you fly in other flight sims, right? And a lot of it still translates even today with the modern mechanics, right? You still want to put yourselves in good positions, and all of that translates well into Squadron. So I see where those people are coming from, but I think it's rose-tinted glasses. To be pretty honest, I think it's all rose-tinted glasses. X-Wing vs. TIE Fighter is still one of my favorite games of all time. It's a great game. You should go back, play PvP. It feels much more like flying in a tin coffin that you're just praying to God you put more kill shots than they do. But it's definitely a lot different and a lot less robust compared to Squadron.
The one thing I have to add to that is, there's all those criticisms about how the mechanics in the game as they are now are not like the movies, whatever that means, right?
Yeah.
But to me, the old games, they're very slow. Like if you drop into a Y-wing or an X-wing and you try to cross the entire length of a Star Destroyer, it takes a while, and you definitely get the sense of scale of that ship. But in the movies, ships don't move that slow.
Mm-hmm.
And in Star Wars Squadrons, you can cross the ISD in seconds, and that's where that whole thing came from. Like, well, I don't think it's the right size.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it is. It's just you're moving a lot faster, and so you're actually getting a lot more of that movie speed in this game versus those old games, which to me is playing out a lot better in terms of just gameplay. Now, do I wish we still had co-op modes and the ability to make custom missions? Absolutely. That would be one thing I would add to this game instantly, but we don't, unfortunately.
So I'm kind of curious too. So I mean, we kind of talked about how you guys got into the game. We were talking sort of about Savrip kind of forming sort of there, leading up to the Cal Cup. You guys did have success initially, but then I think like in the first split, you guys had a good season. You guys were right there. You were right behind. But I feel like in the second half, you guys have really, really come together and just really become one of the strongest teams out there. Like what is it? And I'm not sure who to direct this to. Probably all of you guys. How are you training? How are you guys working on things? What has it been for you guys coming together as a team?
I know
if I
Rebel-
may.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure.
Go ahead, Quinn. Yeah, go ahead, Quinn.
At least from my perspective, it's a lot of just individuals practicing their mechanics, practicing their power management, their evasion, things like that. Because individual skill, individual mechanics are incredibly important for this game. Obviously, there's also the macro element and team strategy, which we also work on. Having a consistent night at least once a week where we get together as a team to practice, to scrim, to talk about tactics. I feel like that's been really helping since we did that. I also feel like since we joined the SCL, with more consistent and more consistent competitive matches, a lot of our strategies have been kind of coming together. Like I definitely feel a cohesion big time. I'm sure the rest of you can agree with me there.
Yeah, that was going to be my main point was SCL. When we came into SCL, those first few games, like we were doing okay, but our game was very shaky. But just having one map a week, our objective players can focus on their dumbfires, and we could just practice on one map a week and just okay, what are the things we like about this map or hate about this map? And taking that game one at a time we were a completely different team from the beginning of SCL to the end of SCL is the way I looked at that, just because we had those consistent matchups and they were, high stakes, all that. And so when we went into the next Cal Cup after that season ended, we kind of pulled a lot of that all together and did really well. And then we realized that was the point, going back to Quinn's initial point, we realized, okay, well, we're hitting the ceiling. What else can we improve? And it came down to we all need to get better at our individual mechanics. Okay, what are we all doing wrong? Let's watch how we're flying. Let's check our power management. And so we started we spent 2 or 3 weeks just working on everybody's individual flight mechanics.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And one thing we've always done is when we reviewed every big game that we could. So if we go against a big team, especially in tournaments when almost everyone's streaming, we will watch the games rewatch them from our perspective as well as the other team's perspective, and understand what went well, what didn't go so well, what hurt the opponents more than we thought it did, and where were the opponents misdirected as to what we were doing. And we try to capitalize on all of those things.
And also, I mean, on top of that too is I think us as a team, ego isn't a big thing, right? I'm not gonna throw any team under the bus, right? We've seen other teams in the past where ego comes into it, right? And it's what Rob had said about us reviewing stuff is that when someone has a criticism, right? I don't want to say there's no fault or no blame environment we have, but kind of everything's constructive. When we realize we see weakness in someone, it's like, okay, we see that you're not doing well, and then usually someone's like, okay, yeah, you're right, I need to work on this kind of deal, right? And even after big losses, where we had and there are plenty of moments in Savrip history where we had just like tough losses, and after the emotions are all, everyone's running through it, and we're just, some people are angry or just bitter, but at the end, just everyone stops and says, okay, how do we improve? Like, no one says it was your fault. No one says, oh, this is the reason we lost. You're the reason we lost, right? And we've seen that with other teams where just it's just that kind of cohesion and team unity gets broken down, because instead of saying we as a team failed, it's you as an individual failed, right? And I think that's something we continue to push upon, the whole team aspect. Even when we're looking for new players, when I or someone else is looking out there, we're not saying, oh, is this guy super talented, he can win us a match? I'm like, no, does this guy fit the system that we've built, right? Because if they don't fit the system, it doesn't matter. They're going to tear apart the team. And on top of that, we as a team, we help each other, as everyone has said so far, that we help each other find our weaknesses, find each other's ways of getting better as a unit. And it's up to the time that they put in, right? And I think that's I feel honored, blessed, and honored that the team has been so positive this entire time, right? And that's how I think a big part about how we've kept growing is because we realize that we still haven't hit the peak yet, and we can keep working at that as a team, and that no one is above the team in terms of doing that work and putting in the effort to go about it. And the Water just joined us, so I just wanted to say, if the Water, Bird, or Trades want to add anything, please add to your comments.
I had one more quick thing to add,
Sure,
and
please.
that's that we also trust each other to perform their roles. We trust our farmers to perform that farm. We trust our objective players, when they go in, to hit those heal gens. We trust support to get those heals out and to communicate the situation when they are not going to be able to make those things because they're pressured or whatever, and so that we can all act on those. So, and so we know the plays that everyone's going to make, and we know when to call the audibles to change up because something's not going the way it would optimally, and that seems to work out pretty well.
And we all trust Rob to kill people. So
Yes, that is true.
The one thing, so I feel like, oh, sorry, I was just gonna say, the thing that I noticed, at first, you guys, your defense was just on another level. You guys got such great defense, one of the top defenses I think are in the SCL, and then your flagship attacks have just gotten so efficient and so crazy good lately. What could you guys attribute anything specifically to the improvements in those two areas? What are your thoughts there?
Actually, that's a good segue to what I was going to say, building on Rob. One thing we started doing, I think, early in the SCL, and I think other teams are doing this. I know Splinter was doing this, and I'm sure other teams were doing this as well, but I don't know why it just never occurred to us to do it more often. We just went into a custom game for the map and set everybody's roles and loadouts out, and we're just like, all right, how quick can we go one phase?
Mm-hmm.
So this is the plan at each phase. It doesn't matter, either we wait for the raider to pop in or we don't, or we just go. And we just worked those out, and we started doing those more frequently to where everybody knew their role. This is what I'm doing on this phase. Now, that doesn't help defense, obviously, but for our attack sometimes would stall out, and that was really where we were trying to work. So we just got to this point where, okay, when we're going on this attack, everybody knows what they're doing. That goes into what Rob's saying, everybody trusts everybody to do their role. And if they can't, they voice it, and we shift in the moment. But that helped us a lot. So if any teams have not done that, I highly suggest just go into a cold game and just see how quickly you can go through an ISD or a MC75.
Yeah.
And then do it again. And then do it again. And then
yeah,
you don't have to do it a lot, but
we've done the same thing and set it up to out of phase and all that stuff too, just to go through just to practice it, just so because you don't want it to be the first time you're doing it in a game when it matters.
Yeah, and let's be honest, it is quite fun and empowering to see how fast you can blow through it.
It really is. When you do it as a 5 and I don't know, you're we did it in this time. It's we just did it 10 seconds faster or whatever. It is nice. You're it's a measurable thing. And obviously, when you have pressure on, that's a different thing for sure. But
so
you can't do it that fast. I mean, if you can't do it in a minute, with no pressure, you're not going to do it in a minute with pressure. That's the way I think.
Right. And so what we started doing was we started putting Rob on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
and having Rob try to shoot us. So that way, we're not only is Rob working on shooting us and seeing how we are moving, but makes us more evasive, and we also get a piece of like, oh, is this what other teams are feeling?
Yeah, because to think of it, I don't really get to fly against Rob all that often. Like I've ran into him sometimes way back when in matchmaking, but I think the amount of times I've done that, I can probably only count on one hand. So having Rob turn his guns on me is definitely an experience. That's just like, oh, so this is what people feel like when Rob is constantly on them.
You're getting that pressure. I mean,
That's definitely helped my evasion, for sure.
Well, it seems like you guys have like a fairly, like you have a larger, or enough people on your roster that you can kind of do almost 4v4s and 5v5s to get that time. And it seems like, I mean, I'm sure everyone's not all on, but having a larger roster, does that provide you that time to get like the in-house scrims too on those team nights?
Sometimes. We've been trying. I mean, Rebel can probably talk to this more. We've been trying to build a second team forever, just so we have not only a second team of players to go out there and have fun and compete, but to, have that ability where we can do internal stuff. And we've seemed to always find people, and then somebody else gets busy, or not everybody can show up at the same night. So it's actually helped us a lot for scheduling things and everybody can fill into a role, and it's not going to really hurt our groove or anything like that. So like if somebody's out, we'll just fill in somebody else, and it's worked out really well for us in that regard anyway.
Yeah, and we try not to use that second team label. And Atreides, the water, you guys can add into this. Because it's funny, like when a couple weeks ago we were talking about coming into September and October and prepping for the championship, right? And then SCL season 2 or season 3 kicking off, right? And the way we, even internally, we don't say that, oh, you're replacing Quinn in this. No, it's just like, okay, we need you to pair up with Quinn, or you need to pair up with Rebel, working on AI farm, because Quinn or Rebel is not going to be there kind of deal. I'm just using for example, by the way. Right? We don't say you're replacing someone. We say, no, you're sliding into that slot. You're sliding that flex slot. You're sliding that AI slot. We don't use that verbiage internally. And I think no one on this team sees anyone as, that you're team 1, you're team 2. Everyone on this team is equal team. And I would love to still have a second team for SCL season 4 or any future championship cups we have, right? Because I think this team as a unit can slide into these different roles very well, and we all mesh together very well. I would love to do it. It's very difficult because, as the game is sort of in the waning part of its time, and it's slim pickings right now out there, right? And it's just hard. But definitely, like I said, Atreides the water. Please speak up. I feel like we as a unit, we definitely just try and work together to prep for these kinds of things, and we don't see each other as A team, B team. It's everyone is on the same team, and we all work towards that as a unit, so that way whenever someone comes in for a role, it's not like, oh, we're weaker now. No, we're the same strength, they're just a different player with a different set of skills, essentially.
That's what makes the team great for me. It's everyone is very positive, and that's not any there's not any competition between people. So Zerith, you always said, if you're here, you play. So there's not okay, this one is better or this one is better. Everyone, if you're there, you play, and at the end, everyone has fun. Though, so that's the point of it.
I mean, I can relate to the. Okay, so you guys built like a team with a bunch of players who were all competent like that. Whereas like we kind of went the other way with Orange, where we like helped build Tangerine, like a second team out of there. And honestly, we've helped build, like, we bring in so many, like they've done it too, a lot of work to put their team together. Obviously, I'm not trying to say that, but we've often helped build that team up. And if we had just maybe brought everyone into Orange, then we would have been in a similar situation to Savrip almost. So I feel like it was very beneficial for what I'm hearing to have, so many players that you don't have to all be like available all the time, right? You can have other people to slide in. That seems like, to me, that seems to be part of the reason you guys have had so much success, is because you can slide in these people to those roles, regardless of, not having a top tier player 1 or player 2. You just have lots of good players who can do that. That makes a lot of sense to me.
Well, yeah.
Building off of that, as like one of the mainstays in the Savrip roster, as one of the main farmers, I obviously have to work with whoever's going to be my co-farmer, which, whether that be Rebel or the Water or Atreides, I don't view any of them as greater or lesser co-farms or co-OBJs.
OBJs.
Basically, we've worked together to the point where it doesn't matter if it's Atreides or Rebel or the Water. We are all more or less on the same page. We know how to communicate and coordinate our farm. We know where to go. We know what our job is, and that I really do feel like is one of our greatest strengths as a roster, that we can slot in different players depending on scheduling or specific needs, and we can still do perfectly fine. I think that's pretty awesome.
I'm just gonna give a shout out to Anastellar because I think he's watching.
Oh,
He's like he's the newest one that's been co-farming with Quinn.
Oh,
my god, I'm so sorry. I forgot to bring up
I even didn't say it, but it's funny because Andy Stellar in SEL Season 3 has played 2 games for us, and it's like nothing changed. Like he's like Serta, like he's only been here for a little bit over a month, and it's like he's always been with the squadron. And that's the system we've built here, right? And I know Atreides, you've been trying to say something. Atreides, I don't know if you want to add to that.
Yeah, like I've noticed just, slotting into the OBJ role, whether it's just for scrims or for competitive matches or whatever. I've noticed that even like play styles, even though it all slots together well, like I fill in very nicely as a pairing for Rebel. So like if Rebel's out, I can slot in, and Quinn will barely have to adjust to play style, just because Rebel and I think very similarly while flying. And well, I don't know. Is that the same on your end, Quinn? Because I feel like Rebel and I fly very similarly.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I was saying, whoever is my co-farm, we end up playing together enough that we are pretty much on the same page. Maybe sometimes we'll need to do a warm-up game or two if it's been a while, but once we're in the zone, once we're hot and ready, there's basically no difference. Farm gets done efficiently and gets done well, no matter who's my co-farm, and I really do like that. That's great.
It seems like you guys have the synergy across the whole team. So now we're kind of at the end of the year. I mean, it's getting close to the Cal Cup finals. There's like one Cal Cup left. This SCL season coming up. What are you guys' thoughts on the game right now? PK is getting a little heavier. What are you guys' thoughts going into the final Cal Cup and all that here? Why don't we kind of go down the horn here? We'll start with Rebel. What are you thinking?
For us internally, I'm very hopeful. I think we are capable, especially in this coming up major, of finishing top 4 if things work out, especially with prepping and whatnot, and especially in the championship. I personally believe we can be capable of a top 4 finish. It'll be very tough. Definitely, it depends on how we do in the play-in for the second day, essentially. And we're a team that's only missed 1 second day in all the Cal Cup championships, so I'm hoping that continues and we just continue playing into the second day. Definitely trying to play up to the level of the CAGs, the IG, of the world, the Randalorians of the world, right? It's something that we have to mentally be prepared for, and it's something that I try and keep the team focused on in my little speeches, and I'm sure the whole team appreciates the speeches, but also get tired of it at a point.
No comment.
But exactly, I know. But in the same instance, it's just just trying to mentally. This game is a very mental game as well, right? The playing with confidence is an important part, but not playing too overconfident that you make mistakes or you do stupid things, right? And I think we're very capable. But like even our last series against the Splinters, when we were reviewing it, it was so many just dumb mistakes we would never make before, and whether that just be heat of the moment, just the anxiety of playing, a favorite team. It's kind of like if we just get over that, the Splinter team, I feel that we can challenge. I don't want to go there and say, "Oh, we're going to definitely beat them," but in the same instance, we can challenge them. We can challenge the IGs of the world. We can challenge the CAGs of the world if we just put our foot down and say, "Okay, let's focus and do it," and not give up our opportunities, right? And I feel that that's where we're at.
I mean, if I was making a tier list, I would still. I mean, I would have teams on an upper tier, but you guys are right there, and those teams that the level you're at, you can definitely beat those teams that are are quote above or whatever, just from like historical rankings. You guys are right there with them, and I can't wait to see every time you guys are tested. I want to watch those games.
And that's the thing with those teams, right? They don't make mistakes. Like you have to capitalize on their mistakes, and that's the thing I always will say about Randall Lorion's IG, CAGs, Splinters, and teams like that. They don't make mistakes, and if you make a mistake, they're gonna punish you for it. And we just have to be there, right? We have to be there and take our opportunities. And I'm hoping with this championship and going forward that we continue to be the top team. I want to keep flying past the Cal Cup championship. I want it to be infinite SCL seasons. I love Dexter versus TIE Fighter. I love Squadron. I hope that these keep continuing. I hope that people watching this either tonight or when it gets replayed, it's this game has plenty for everyone. And even if you think that the top tier is impossible to catch, don't believe that. I mean, a lot of us here started where everyone in the mid tier is now, and it just took time and effort, and we got there. So I'm hoping that continues.
Listen, we were kind of talking about it earlier, or I don't know if we talked about it, but there's definitely like teams who I was like, oh, we got them, no problem, like earlier in the year, and those teams regularly beat me. So it's like you gotta everyone gets better just by putting the time in, right? So and there's ebbs and flows, and there's been teams who beat you and you beat them, and then it goes back and forth too. Agent Rob, what are you thinking for the last few bits of the season?
Oh yeah, well obviously PK's dead. Don't shoot at my team and pay no mind to this harmless interceptor pilot that's futilely shooting at you. Just it's fine. It'll be interesting. Teams are realizing that PK with a purpose does matter. You can't just blindly shoot at people and hope to win something. You have to do it when it makes sense and don't waste time doing it. Now, that doesn't mean doing it is wasting time. What it means is if you're unproductive, then do something else. If you are productive, then keep at it. So if it's a team that's super evasive and you can't quite get those kills, then yeah, you're going to have to switch to something else. And but when you can get them in, or when you can find out how to apply that pressure to slow them down, it does change the game a bit.
I think so. We're just seeing it more and more all the time too.
Yeah, because players have figured out how to get kills because the evasiveness went up, but it's always an arms race. One side goes up and then the other side, oh wait, we can just use ion missiles. Oh, okay, well, and the meta keeps shifting because as you figure out a counter, then you figure out the counter to the counter. And then eventually there'll be a counter figured out to that counter, and it'll just continue on. I will hopefully plan to continue playing this game well after the Cal Cup finals as well. I've been playing the original X-Wing game for over 2 decades, and I've played it this year. And so this game's much younger, so it should still have a good amount of life in it for me. As long as I can find people to play with.
Well, I feel like there's enough. There's gonna be at least there's like 200 of us at least. We're gonna keep playing, I think. Atreides, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm just really excited with how players have been optimizing how they do things. Like our team, other teams, CAG, Splinter, IG, just the optimizations in the way the game is played, from how it shifted from launch and how much better everyone has gotten at everything. And like the game is down to a matter of seconds, especially with the AI OBJ role that I fly. If you miss a couple shots on that one AI, it could change the game by not winning you that coin toss. Or
AI, look,
if you're short a percent of damage on that flagship, it may not be out of phaseable and you lose a base race.
I've played every role. AI farm objective is the most stressful role in this game. I don't care what anyone says.
Oh, definitely.
Everything. You died. Oh,
You say
we need to farm it out. Everything's like an urgency. Like we need.
you say that. You say that as a prior support player, and I'm sitting here going, "Wait, I'm the one who's always getting killed." Okay.
I'm back on support now, so I have fresh eyes, and I'm saying AI farm. I'm saying that Y-wing is a death trap. Okay, that thing is. Everybody's looking for you in it too.
I mean,
sorry, I tried
really
to
slippery.
yeah, and not to throw any shade at your teammate Gunk, but the whole argument between standard slam versus rotary jet, or doing both rotary and slam, like just like there's still not one set meta with it, right? There's still different ways to do the same thing, and that's what's so great. The game is still growing. We're still figuring out the best ways to do things. We're still optimizing.
We're still trying to figure out the things Destracier told us in November.
and not to add any ego to Gonk, but we're literally reviewing the stats yesterday, and Gonk has the second most objective damage in SCL right now. So no one tell him that, because he's going to keep going tomorrow about how standard lasers are the best things ever.
He's away for a week and a bit, but don't tell, because he's also, to make it even weirder, he didn't even bring this up, but he uses rotary on his Y-wing. So don't even. Oh my god! Like, it's like everyone, he doesn't even bring that part up, right? Like, just
Freaky Friday going on.
I
here.
know.
I mean, to be fair, the only good game I've ever played where I didn't have a rotary on my Y-wing was in SPL, which that's dogfighting.
Okay, but Birdbrain, what are you thinking for the game moving forward, and for yourself? You planning on playing and all that stuff?
Yeah, I'm definitely hoping to play past the Cal Cup and stuff, and just kind of adding on to Rebel. Like, we've had some frustrating losses to the big teams, but they're not frustrating because we get absolutely steamrolled. We're frustrated because we're so close, and we just make maybe a few mistakes, and that costs us the game.
Mm-hmm.
And we're so close to that line of being up there with them. And it's just, yeah, I would want to keep improving, and just go past the Cal Cup and hopefully play a lot longer.
I mean, honestly, like, hearing you guys all be so positive about playing further, like, that makes me happy too, because I don't know what the general sense is too of people, if it's like after Cal Cup, or that people want CSCL to keep going. That makes me so happy, because I want it to keep going. I don't know. I'm glad to hear that the interest will still be there. That's sweet. The Water, what do you think?
Oh, I will stick around. Pretty sure, even if there's no competition, because what's fun in this game is playing with a bunch of friends, and the teams have become a bunch of friends for me, and it's always fun to play on Thursday night with them. So even if there's not any Call Cup or any competition or tournament, I will stick around and just have fun.
Yeah, that's the thing. I sometimes, when we get into competition and take it serious and all that stuff, I do myself. I forget to have fun, so it's good to hear. Just to hear you say that reminds me. It's like, oh yeah, this game's freaking fun. I enjoy playing this game, and have met cool people playing it. So that is the super important part. Speaking of cool people, this is the first person I actually met from Savrip. So Quinn, you've always been one of the homies for sure that we played late night in those orange hours. So what are you thinking about the game moving forward?
Oh, gee, yeah, those orange hours, great times. So what I'm thinking about the game is, obviously, could it have been left in a better state? Yes. But am I enjoying the game in its current state? Also, yes. I am looking forward to finishing SCL strong. I'm absolutely looking forward to the final Cal Cups. When we were a consistent top 16 team, I was like, wow, okay, I'm cool with that. We're a threat. We're respected. Then we started, making top 8 finishes, and I'm like, okay, actually, you know what? I'm cool with this. And now with us taking games off CAG and Splinter, and kind of starting to scratch at potentially top 4, I'm like, okay, you know what? I'll be okay with that.
You guys,
We
you guys are sixth right now in points, and you're tied with Baywatch for points wise. Like, you guys have an amazing second half. Just so you guys are as good a second half as any team. You guys have been killing it.
Oh yeah, I mean, just our glow up. It hasn't been as explosive as say CAG's glow up from like about our level to just to pure monsters, but I feel like that Savrip is capable of doing that. I know that CAG believes we're capable of doing that as well. We scrim them a lot and we play with them a lot. I know that Knights and people like them hold us in pretty high regard. And I am more than looking forward to meeting those expectations. And as for beyond SCL, beyond Cal Cup, I'm here until either they pull the turn off the lights, pull the plug, or like literally no one's playing anymore because there isn't a game out there quite like it, and I don't think there ever will be a game quite like this. So I'm here for the long haul. I'm here to play the hell out of this game until I can't anymore.
Yeah, this being my first flight sim, I've been trying to find other games like this. I'm like, this is one of the only ones like this, so I'm just gonna hang on as long as I can to this one.
I mean, for myself, coming from like a lot of like sports games, and this to me is very much like a sports game, sort of like I don't know the style of game, but I'm used to the sports games being like really heavily monetized, and this game not having that. Yeah, it's there's no other game like that is in this sort of competitive area to me. So it's really cool to see that, and I want it to continue. So again, I'm just hyped everyone's feeling that way. Zerith.
Honestly,
oh sorry, Quinn,
if I could say one more thing real quick.
Yeah, of course.
These games are almost nothing alike initially, but the one game that I think of the most when I think of Squadrons at the highest level is Smash Brothers Melee of all games, because they're both kind of games that at least right now, right, have a pretty niche audience. They are incredibly high skill floor and astronomically high skill ceiling games. The casual and competitive versions of those games are basically like almost completely different games from each other. And just, I don't know, just the highly competitive nature, the highly technical and precise nature of both games just really make me think about it,
Mm-hmm. That does make sense. I haven't thought about that one, but I can kind of see the comparison.
Also, the rampant use of things that could arguably be called exploits that involve a lot of that involve mobility that become the cornerstone of movement in both games.
Well, that's
also analogous.
That's a whole other podcast right there. We've done that one a couple times, I think. Zerith.
I'll just crack open the can of worms.
Yeah. Yeah, what a way to finish on the last right at the end. Zerith, what are your thoughts here for the game? The end of the year for you guys here, and yeah, moving forward.
So, for me, I'm gonna, winning's fun, right? However we do, at the end of the day, we had an amazing year in this game, and I'll be happy with whatever the result is. It'll always sting if we aren't able to get to some goal or whatever, but that's playing any competitive thing, right? So, this is kind of, I'm actually no stranger to competition. I played a lot of basketball in my early years and, won some championships and lost some championships. So to me, it's just, as long as we're in the conversation, I'm happy, and if we're having fun, that's the whole point, right? This isn't supposed to be anybody's job. But going off what they're saying, there's a few Savrip's not here tonight that I just want to shout out to because they've been a big part of the team. The first one is LBT. We've mentioned him a couple times.
Of course, yeah.
But he's been a fantastic player for us. Unfortunately, due to real life, he's kind of had to retire from the comp scene, but he still is showing up to play whenever he can. Like, he's still hanging out, he's still chatting and all that. So he's still part of the team forever, as far as I'm concerned. And then other teammates not here participating tonight would be Lauren. She's come in trying to back me up in that support role, and she's made a huge amount of progress since she first joined the team. So expecting big things out of her as she continues to improve those support skills. And then Novals is the other one. Novals was originally Vice in that first Cal Cup, and Vice sort of was one of those teams that didn't stay together after that, and he sort of just slowly assimilated into Savrip, and unfortunately his playtime is not the best anymore, but he has been able to like make a showing in those late night SCL games whenever we get them scheduled out, and he's done fantastic anytime he's on the stage. So
he's also been one of our top tacticians. Me, Novals, and Zerith will sit there and talk about strategy, and like Novals just watches all our games. Like, okay, guys, we should try this and that. And like Novals, I was so glad that after Vice, I mean, not that I wanted Vice to fall apart. It was very sad, but that Novals like, oh, I want to join you guys because you guys seem like the ones that are going to take it to the future, kind of. So definitely, Novals is one of those guys that I was so glad he joined us.
So I just wanted to mention them since they're not here, and they're a big part of the team as well. And then as far as what's coming up after, I mean, me personally, I'll be surprised if Cal Cup comes back in January. But if it does, awesome. If it doesn't, oh well. I really think the future of the scene is going to stay in things like SCL and 3PO League. 3PO League has been a very interesting twist on the game, and they're doing really well. There's a lot of participation there, so hopefully SCL continues. I know it's a lot of work. I know there's a lot that goes into it, and it's not just like, yeah, here, let's go, let's do it. So hopefully people stay interested, teams keep showing up to fly and have fun. So, I'm optimistic that it'll keep going until next year, but if not, we'll just continue to meet up tonight and every Thursday night and fly.
I mean, that's honestly, if that's all it was, that would be good enough for me. And I mean, stuff even like if it's all of the different groups too in some sort of way, that'd be pretty cool. And I mean, that kind of thing could actually sounds like if there was every group doing that, still every squad still kind of doing that on a night, I feel like we'd still probably have a comp scene going on. If that's the case, actually. So I see it.
We'll figure something out, right?
Yeah, for sure. I feel like that's pretty much everything. Want to go? Just got to pretty much wrap up here. We should list all the. Why don't we give the shout out to you guys' streams, those who stream and have content and everything. Quinn and Rebel, I know for sure you guys stream.
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
I do. I'll be casting a 3PO League game in about an hour, actually.
There you go. And your Twitch is?
It's Quintessence, but with a 1 instead of the I.
And on YouTube as well, you've been making the Dumbfire videos and different stuff there.
Yes, actually, I'm making the finishing touches right now on my Dumbfire guide for Fostar Haven. Hopefully that should be going up tonight, actually, and I'll be throwing that out on the subreddit and a couple of the discords. I know some of the people who play in 3PO and Cadet Cup have asked me to share it in their team's discords.
Nice.
So I'll be doing that as well.
And Rebel, what was your Twitch?
Mine's is the Rebelpilot, which I try to post in stream, and I got botted. But the Rebelpilot, and I used to stream with you guys during the mimosa hours, but with work getting busier, it's a lot harder. So my stream days are usually just competition, team night, and some random weeknights whenever I'm flying.
And anyone else streaming on there that I can throw at? I'll put all the links in the description as well.
I stream our comp games. I used to do it a little more frequently, but just my comp games now, and that's Zerith Smash. So if you want to see a support pilot air AU-ing into things, please feel free to tune in.
Thank you guys all, Savrip.
I also have a Twitch.
Our other support,
sorry.
Lauren also streams. I don't know the thing offhand, but
shoot me that and I'll add it in the description below so we can have that one.
Lauren and I
and Atreides
stream
as well.
comp games.
What's yours?
Atreides_17.
Perfect.
So,
hey guys, thank you again, everyone. For being on the podcast, going over everything. Savrip, it's so cool to talk about all this stuff with you guys that I didn't know. I hadn't gotten into all of this with you guys, so cool to go over it. And thanks everybody for checking out the podcast here. I'm gonna go raid the Nerdy Northern stream, and we're gonna cast that game here pretty promptly. So thanks again, everyone, for checking it out. And Savrip, thank you guys for being on the pod. Catch everyone.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us, Time Bomb.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
All right, later.